back to Neon Trash, all you cyberpunks and retro nerds out there. I'm your host, Tommy the Hammer. In today's solo flight review, we're going to be checking out the mid-90s Tim Burton classic, Mars Attacks. This is based on the old Topps trading cards. There's been comic books, tons of media and entertainment based on these crazy alien creatures. I grew up with them, I love them, and this movie's kind of an anomaly in terms of Tim Burton films anyways. We're going to be touching on that a little bit more, but first, you guys get to check out the trailer, peep that shit. When we get back, y'all motherfuckers are gonna know my opinion on Tim Burton's Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks. Jack Nicholson as the president. Yikes. Glenn Close as the first lady. Annette Bening. Pierce Brosnan. Danny DeVito. Martin Short. Sarah Jessica Parker. Michael J. Fox. Rod Steiger. Jim Brown. And Tom Jones.
I want the people to know they still have 2 out of 3 branches of the government working for them, and that ain't bad.
Mars Attacks.
I haven't seen the movie Mars Attacks in quite some time, and I, had been itching to refresh my memory on it. So, I had to buy myself a copy, and I gotta say, returning to the film all these years later, right off the bat, I feel like this movie's got 3 things going for it. Number 1, the source material. Anyone that grew up with Mars Attacks trading cards and comic books and all the other stuff, when we think about it with, fondness. I mean, the Mars Attacks series is just so prolific and awesome. I mean, it was very comical, very colorful, but very violent and kind of shocking in a lot of ways. The other thing that this movie's got going for it is its director. Tim Burton seems right at home with this source material, and you could tell he grew up watching a lot of those cheesy 1950s, 1960s sci-fi horror movies. This film absolutely looks and feels like one of those movies. The third thing that this movie's got going for it is its cast. The cast is through the roof. There are cameos out the ass pretty much, and just to give you guys a rough idea of who's in this film, there's so many I had to look it up here, but it starts off with Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Annette Bening, Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Sarah Jessica Parker, Michael J. Fox, Tom Jones, Natalie Portman, Christina Applegate, Pam Grier, Jack Black. The list goes on and on. This movie kind of comes across as, kind of a Hollywood event film. Everyone involved in this movie really shows that they're enjoying it. Like, on screen, each actor is given enough time to flesh out their characters, and they all feel very different, so you're never really bored. And the initial setup to the film is actually quite awesome. There's even a sense of horror and dread that creeps upon the audience as you see these UFOs impending onto Earth. Once the aliens do arrive, however, it is a bit of CGI overload, but you gotta remember, this is the mid-1990s, and CGI was relatively a new thing with a lot of mainstream Hollywood affairs, so in my eyes, I feel like that's kind of forgivable. And I consider this movie, Mars Attacks, to be a CGI movie. There's a few other films that I kind of put into that category. The movie Frighteners by Peter Jackson. But that doesn't really detract from the film because, sci-fi horror movies from the 50s were quite cheesy. You could tell that there was fake backgrounds and a lot of hands-on prosthetics, all the classic horror movie tropes that, I love. And this movie kind of implores those, elements too. There's still a lot of, hands-on practical effects. There's a lot of, matte paintings in the background that are quite awesome. And there are a ton of action and stunt double special effects going on in this flick. So if you can kind of push aside the overuse of CGI and look at how they made the overall movie, it's actually quite awesome. So this was kind of an interesting Tim Burton film because if you consider the movies that came out prior to this one, he's actually worked with actors Danny DeVito and Jack Nicholson before in the movie Batman and Batman Returns. So those actors are right at home, but you're looking at this film and you're thinking about the movies that he had directed beforehand, and it just seems like in a different era, the 1980s and the early 1990s. He hadn't even created the Johnny Depp adaptation of Sleepy Hollow yet, so this kind of, finds Tim Burton in a weird middle period, but I like that. You get to see the studio itself taking a chance with an edgy director, someone who's very stylish and kind of does things his own way, and allowing him to kind of run free with the source material, something that he obviously loves. All the actors seem like they're having a hoot, especially Jack Nicholson, who plays 2 freaking characters in the movie, and it's just an overall treat to see all the different cameos and surprises. It's a shame the movie is PG-13 because, let's face it guys, the Mars Attacks source material is very violent and gory, shocking even. But they get away with some pretty gruesome sequences in this movie, but some of the CGI kind of detracts from those moments. But with all that being said guys, I still think this is a colorful and fun film. Definitely one of Tim Burton's more underrated films in my own humble opinion. So, out of 10 stars, I think I could give the movie Mars Attacks a solid 7 out of 10.